Well, the State Department has expanded travel bans for Chinese officials who repress religious and ethnic minorities. The ban builds on visa restrictions enacted during the Trump administration. And joining us now to discuss is Gordon Chang, author of The Coming Collapse of China and the Great U.S.-China Tech War. Gordon, welcome back. Always so great to see you. A lot I want to get to, but first, I want to get your thoughts on that travel ban by the State Department.
It's good that we're imposing enhanced travel bans, but we got to remember that this repression, this coercion of religion, it starts at the top. And so I'm not going to be impressed until we start imposing those bans on Xi Jinping, the Chinese ruler, and the members of the Politburo Standing Committee. That's the apex of political power. That's where all of this is coming from, Tracy. So we shouldn't just deal with minor or low-level officials. We should be going at those who are responsible for this.
Yeah, and Gordon, as you know, a few days ago, President Biden and President Xi had a 2-hour conversation which was focused on Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Following that talk, the Chinese ambassador to the U.S. told Face the Nation that, quote, China's trusted relations with Russia, it's not a liability. Actually, it's an asset in the international efforts to solve the crisis in a peaceful way. China is part of the solution. It's not part of the problem. Gordon, your reaction to that?
Well, China has been financing Putin's war on Ukraine with these elevated commodity purchases. We've seen China make its financial system available to sanctioned Russian institutions. Chinese diplomats are now working in service of the Kremlin, and China's propaganda machines are amplifying these ludicrous Russian notions that Moscow is propagating. So it just seems to me that we should be treating China as a combatant. And clearly what Chang, the ambassador to the U.S., said, we should just ignore that.
Yeah. Speaking of that conversation between Biden and Xi, it was very lengthy, 2 hours, yet the readout from the White House, that was rather short and concise. And while we don't know exactly what was said, Gordon, do you think that President Biden's words will have any sway over how China will act?
I don't think so. I mean, we haven't seen changes in China's behavior. And remember, President Biden's talk with Xi Jinping, that followed that tense 7-hour discussion that National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan had with Yang Jiechi, China's top diplomat in Rome. I mean, we're not getting anywhere, and we won't get anywhere until we start imposing sanctions on China, the same sanctions that we're imposing on Russia, because the two of them are acting together. And we have to give China some incentive to do the right thing. We're not doing that by just issuing warnings, which we failed to follow up on.
Yeah, another thing I want to touch on is the Biden administration has tapped former Trump officials to help pass the China competition bill. I want to get your thoughts on that. And do you think it may help push this bill through?
Well, yes, because there are certain bipartisan elements to this bill, especially the building up our semiconductor capacity and also putting some resiliency into supply chains. We need to bring our factories back, and that will also have support across the aisle. So that's good. Now, there are some parts of this China competition bill which have very little to do with China, and that's where the sticking point has been. But clearly, on those elements which have broad support across U.S. society, I'm very happy that Trump officials are supporting this effort.
And Gordon, not a whole lot of time left, but wondering what else you're following right now. What do you have your eye on?
I'm going to be looking at basically Beijing's response to Russia over the next week or so. We have seen indications that China is supplying military information to Russia to target, for instance, Ukrainian drone operators. If this continues, I think that we have a clear indication that these two are working together. So those little things, which are actually in the open source, are really important to tell us where this is going.
All right, we got to leave it right there. Gordon, thank you so much. I always appreciate your analysis.
Thank you, Tracy.